Episode of Face to Face coming to you direct from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. Today's Face to Face is somewhat unique because we have gone international with our choice of guest, and our guest today joins us all the way from Bangladesh, who is here for a very important workshop concerning human rights, and he is also a top figure in Bangladesh's legal system. My guest tonight is Mr. Aneek Haque, Additional Attorney General for Bangladesh. A very good day to you, sir. Welcome to
Good day
Face to Face, and welcome to Sri Lanka as well.
Thank you. It's been wonderful here, and thank you, News First, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Amazing. So, Mr. Haque, to start things off, the South Asian Regional Workshop on Human Rights, Learning from Neighbors, that is why you're here in Sri Lanka. It will be happening on the 20th and 21st of September 2025. And we want to get to know a bit more about what this workshop is, what are the key thematic areas you and your panelists plan on discussing during the workshop.
Right. The best thing about this is that this subcontinent, and especially the South Asian region, we have the same legal background. All of us have the same English common law background that we have. So basically the legal system in all the countries are more or less the same. So keeping that in mind, the way the things have developed in certain countries and the way things have developed here in Sri Lanka and also in Bangladesh, there is a lot of chance of all of us sharing our experiences and learning that what has been done in a certain case of human rights in Sri Lanka, what has been done in Bangladesh, what has been done in Pakistan, in India. So this is a unique opportunity of sharing the legal development in the human rights area that has been happening.
I see. So can you apprise us more about what this workshop will entail in terms of strengthening solidarity and fostering collaboration amongst regional peers such as Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and so on?
The aim is that from now on, we all are going to sort of like create a network where each country will be helping out. That if, say, in about the refugee issues, it is always there in all of these countries. So how we have in Bangladesh tackled the refugee issue vis-a-vis the human rights in the courts, and that learning, what we have learned from Bangladeshi court, we can share it with our neighbors in Sri Lanka, in Pakistan, so that when similar situation, if that arises in Sri Lanka, they can at least strategize and use this as a persuasive argument that, look, this is what the Supreme Court of Bangladesh has done, and we can adopt that. And even it is basically, we are also having some judges flown in from Nepal and Maldives. So we can also learn how the judges are looking at it, and then take that learning and use it in our own jurisdictions. And at the same time, sort of like helping each other and creating a network so that the lawyers who are working for human rights can keep in touch and be updated.
Great. So, Mr. Haque, it's no surprise that Bangladesh is currently under a transitional government, given the events that unfolded in July last year and August, when the former Prime Minister was ousted by the people themselves. Since then, during a transition government, when a transition government is in play, especially in the case of an uprising, what unfolded in Sri Lanka, then Bangladesh, and more recently in Nepal as well, how does the judiciary, in your reflections, in your own opinion, how does the judiciary ensure the balance of maintaining law and order? Because it can be a very tricky task, protecting lives and also upholding democratic norms and processes. Where do you find the correct formula?
The balance. The question is that where is the balance, right? You see, in Bangladesh, what happened in Sri Lanka, that was more of an economic, it arose out of economic disparity, right? And thereafter in Bangladesh, it was more like after 15 years of tyranny, people couldn't take it anymore, so they revolted. And along with that, the judges that was there, they were also forced to resign. as much as I would have loved justice to be injected into politics, sadly in Bangladesh, politics was injected into the justice system. So most of the judges that were there, the top judges, that is the Supreme, we had 5 judges in the Supreme Court, all of them were basically forced to resign, and new judges were elevated from the High Court. And as this is the government that is there now is more of a people's choice government, what has actually been happening for these days that the judges have become more people friendly rather than following the political masters, because at this moment there is no political government, so there is no political masters. But I hope that the way this judiciary has been behaving, this will continue, because this is probably the people's judiciary after a long time that Bangladesh has got.
Great. That's amazing to hear. So, talking about your capacity as the additional Attorney General, you are one of 3 additional Attorney Generals in Bangladesh. How have you taken steps along with your other colleagues to depoliticize the judicial system in Bangladesh after what transpired last year?
Right. Let me just give you one example that we have had these oppressive acts by which the former government used to sort of like harass the opposition politicians.
Stifle dissent.
Exactly. If you have put a Facebook post which opposes them, you could have been in prison. So what we did after 5th August, we all sat and started taking a note of how many cases of this sort is there. We found out that in 15 years, about 21,000 false cases have been filed, and just case was filed, the people were arrested, no further progress in that. And we gathered the whole cases. At one go, we just dismissed 18,000 cases. And when it comes to the social media platform dissents, the law that was there, the Digital Security Act, we insisted on behalf of the Attorney General's office, along with the Law Ministry, that this law is a very draconian law, only made to harass people, and we completely repealed the act and said that the cases which has been followed under these sections that is actually against the international human rights and everything, all of those cases were scrapped. And this is how we have been dealing with, and this 21,000 is the ones that we could find in this 1 year.
Right.
And I'm sure there are more, but we are actually working on it.
Right. So Sri Lanka, I'm pretty sure our viewers can also draw parallels between the law regulating social media and online behavior, because Sri Lanka also has a similar law called the Online Safety Act, which is deemed draconian by many human rights defenders and also
my question is this online safety, for whom this safety is aimed at? It is definitely not the users. It is probably the power that be, and these laws are drafted in such a I would say loose way that if you actually post a good morning post, someone might say no, he is trying to incite someone and all this. So we have said that no, this is not going to be done. Just for an example, after the inception of this act that came, that was basically in 2023. Before that there was another act.
Yes.
A total of 900 cases was filed. And when this government came, we came to a decision that no, everybody has the right to disagree with whatever our viewpoint is, and we are not going to put any censorship, or we are not going to prosecute anyone just for dissenting with us.
Right.
So far in last 1 year, no single case has been filed on this.
Great, amazing. That's great to hear. So, Mr. Haque, when we talk about the uprising last year, there were certain instances during the peak of the uprising where we heard very horrific reports of authorities opening fire at certain protesters. In such an instance, how does Bangladesh's law address accountability when law enforcement or security officers injure or even go to the extent of killing a civilian in protests? Were there any existing legal provisions used in this period, or did the judiciary issue any landmark rulings based on previous cases?
Okay. Very interestingly, what happened when this was going on, in around 30th of July, I filed a writ petition. I was no longer not a state lawyer then.
At the time.
Yeah, I filed a writ petition, that is a judicial review, asking a direction from the court that police cannot open fire on unarmed civilians.
Yes.
And very interestingly, we found that the moment we filed the case, the police, because there is a case pending, stopped firing on the civilians. Before that, they were just right, left, and center, they were firing. That case I kept on arguing because I found out that if I keep arguing, the police is not firing anymore. So I kept arguing this for till about 5 days at a stretch. And the court finally said that yes, there is some substance in this matter. They said that police has to follow the police regulation that is there, that not to aim over the knee. It has to be below the knee.
Any
and
shots have
all
to be
that
below the
exactly.
knee.
If they have to, at the
Resort
last
to violence,
resort,
yes.
this. And but this order, which came on 4th of August, was misinterpreted, saying police has been given license to shoot. And on 5th of August, finally, the government was toppled.
Yes.
But interestingly, after that, we came up, we actually found telephone conversation where the Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister, is ordering that if need be, kill 50,000 people. I don't care. To control the protests. And the Home Minister, the then Home Minister, is saying, you are shooting that much, but why nobody is dying? And the police is saying, we shoot one, somebody dies, that one person dies, 10 others stands in protest. What can we do? We do not have that much bullet to protest.
To shoot down so many protesters.
Exactly. So after finding out all of these, we have started prosecuting them under the, this is basically another trial, that is, we call it the International Crimes Tribunal, which is basically crimes against humanity.
Yes.
When you have openly ordered to kill people,
unarmed civilians.
Exactly, unarmed civilians, then we believe that this is an act against humanity. And we have this act which allows us to prosecute the perpetrators, and we are doing that.
Right. So you gave me the perfect segue to my next question. So since the protests and the subsequent political upheaval that we witnessed in Bangladesh, have there been any judicial or legislative proposals or even initiatives to strengthen the rule of law, accountability of security forces, like you mentioned, oversight of protests, and also the protection of civil liberties to ensure that basic human rights are protected even when a civilian might be protesting against the government?
Well, there has been basically, the police reform is there. It is going on. And our current advisor, who's playing the role of the minister, we are calling them advisors, the current advisor for Home Affairs, we are coming to a sort of like a decision where the police is not allowed to carry assault rifles anymore.
I see.
They were given the Chinese assault rifles and all that. So they are not going to carry the assault rifles anymore.
That's a very pivotal decision.
Yes, so that the police, you see, during the last regime, what happened, that the police was given a carte blanche, that they can do whatever they want. They have been given all this, exactly. And one of the pivotal moments for Bangladesh during that particular July-August period of 2024 was when the military said that no, this is a political issue.
We will stand out.
We are not going to do anything, and the army is not going to shoot at civilians. And that gave us, the protesters at that point of time, a tremendous boost. Exactly. So we are trying to do those reforms, but basically the reform that has to be made is in the mindset.
Understood. So in all of these reforms and proposals and initiatives that you have already enacted, how do you see the role of the Attorney General playing a part? What sort of a role does he play?
It is a very important role, basically, because being the highest law officer of the country, we do not actually represent the government. We represent the state, we represent the people. So to us, it is the people who matters most, not what the the political masters or currently those who are actually non-political
Leading
people
the
leading
country.
country, even they can be wrong. So what we do when anything is proposed to us, we actually sit together, the three or four of us, the attorney general and the additionals, and we just sit together and actually talk about amongst ourselves that whether it is going to be people friendly or is it going to be state friendly, or is it absolutely necessary that right now it might seem that it is against people, but in the long run the advantage would be there. And based on that, basically we take the decision. And the role of an attorney general for a country is basically to defend the people against the government. So we do that.
Right, great. So on the 5th of August this year, marking 1 year since the former Prime Minister's ouster, the current chief advisor to the government, Mohammed Yunus
Yunus.
rather, he spoke at this grand event and issued the July Declaration. It
Yeah.
was introduced to Bangladesh. And the declaration, for the information of our viewers, this declaration primarily serves as a constitutional document, and it also formally recognizes the 2024 uprising and guides the country's democratic transition. So, Mr. Haque, in the larger format of things, this has now been dubbed the second the liberation of Bangladesh after 1971. So, in the larger context of things, how does this July Declaration pitch in to Bangladesh's constitution, and how will it alter the constitutional landscape of the country and also the future moving forward?
It's basically, if I may just put a line there, that this is basically a draft that he has read.
Right.
That these are the things he is proposing to the people that are in the political parties, that we want these particular things to be included as the proclamation for the July uprising.
Right.
And what was the aim of it and why it was necessary to document that.
So those demands were put into pen and paper.
Exactly.
Right,
That why it was there and why it became really necessary for us to protest in that manner.
Magnitude.
Exactly.
Right, understood.
And this is still basically, we are sitting with various sections of the society, some being political, some being the civil society, the human rights worker, and we are coming up with one which will basically be part of a schedule in our constitution, that just to commemorate that, yes, this is the thing that happened in 2024, and this was the aim, and this is what we are striving for. So
Right.
there you go.
Great. So, Mr. Haque, in recent years, like we discussed earlier on in the program, we saw multiple youth-led movements which evolved.
The Gen Zs.
The Gen Zs, which evolved into uprisings centering South Asia, firstly Sri Lanka, then Bangladesh, and more recently Nepal, as we discussed. As someone who is deeply rooted in the legal system and someone who has a broad knowledge in the legal systems concerning South Asia and South Asian countries, how do you view this rising trend? Are such uprisings largely driven by discontent of the people and idealism? And is it justified, in your opinion?
One good thing about this is that we used to think, the older generation, that the Gen Zs are not politically conscious. They really do not care about anything except just sort
Their
of like
devices.
exactly,
Yeah.
tabs and devices and all that. But we were pleasantly surprised that no, they are rather more socially aware or conscious that at their age than what I was at their age. So in Bangladesh or in Sri Lanka or in Nepal, I think what happened that the Gen Z started to show their discontent, and that particular spirit was caught up by the rest of the nation, and then the whole thing happened. Basically, if you think it that way, that these Gen Zs, they are going to be the ones to lead in future.
Yes.
So if they become this much political conscious, I have no problem with that. I'd rather welcome it, because they are the ones to whom we will be handing out our duty. Exactly. Handing the reins to them. So why not they get ready right now?
Right, great. So I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second here and ask you this, because critics of these protest movements,
Yeah.
of these mass uprisings, often say that these movements bypass due process, democratic mechanisms, and so on. But supporters, on their part, argue that it's a last resort when eventually institutions fail the people. Institutions elected by the people don't ensure that the people's welfare is made to be taken care of. Where do you personally draw the line between rightful dissent and also societal disruption, where it might be
If we are
considered a nuisance?
if we're talking about revolution or uprising, has there ever been a uprising which has followed the rule of law? The whole idea is that the law has not been followed properly, so they have taken matters into their own hands because their backs were
Against the wall.
against the wall in such manner that if they do not strike back,
Yeah.
they won't have any other
Yeah.
choice. For Bangladesh, it took 15 years. For Sri Lanka, I think it took 6 years of that whatever was going on. In Nepal, it took 4 years. So you see, we are basically very tolerant sort of nations in all across the South Asia. So we actually do not react until and unless we have to. So there, I think the Genjis, if you're talking about them or stuff, they have found out the law that was there was not actually helping them or anyone. It was meant for specifically the people in power. They were not using it, they were abusing it.
Right.
So they have done away with that. I think worldwide, if you take a look at the French Revolution or anywhere, that is the norm of an uprising. You cannot have an uprising saying that, sir, please, can you please step down?
Yes.
They will never
Without
do that.
discontent, there won't be a spark.
Exactly.
Right. Understood. So, talking about the legal system in any country, especially in South Asia, since we're centering our subject of discussion today on South Asia, there is often a tension between what is legal, what is the law, and what people or the younger population believe to be morally justified, right? There is a tension and a disruption there.
Yeah.
So, do you believe regional frameworks or legal frameworks in regional South Asia adequately accommodate those grievances of younger populations, or are these uprisings a sign that there needs to be laws which are calibrated to match societal change?
I believe that law is not a static thing. It is something which is dynamic. The moment the social dynamic changes, law has to adapt and change, and that is exactly where the judges come in, because it is not possible to change the law at the drop of your hat.
Yes.
But when it goes to the court interprets these, and these interpretations are actually the real law that has to be followed. If the judges, they can catch the pulse of the nation, if they can understand that this is what the current society needs, not the interpretation that was given 50 years ago by someone sitting in England. No. The judge has to actually change it, localize it, interpret it in such a way that it becomes applicable for Sri Lanka, for Bangladesh. See, our penal code, all four countries, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, we have all inherited the same penal code made by the Brits in 1860. And since then, yes, we have amended this
certain
part, that
tweaks,
part,
yes.
certain tweaked it. But no big change has been made. How the law has developed then? It is the judges who has said that no, this particular thing in 1860 meant something. Coming into 2020, 2025, it may mean a different thing. So this is how it goes. So I believe it has to be done in that way.
Understood. Amazing. So, in your view, what sort of lessons should governments and judiciaries across South Asia and even maybe the world take from this trend, from the uprisings of younger generations who are more societally aware, who are more aware of whether their leaders are promising and delivering what they promise? And at what point where ignoring that political conscience of the youth becomes a problem, and where do they need to address it in order to ensure that the demands of the populations are met?
I believe the politicians all across the world must start taking note that the idea, the notion that the young people do not understand politics, do not fear the country is over. They must take note of the fact that the youth have a voice, and the youth have a logical voice, and they are not going to believe everything the politicians say unless you actually do not just constrain yourself with the words, but actually deliver what you promise. So for me, I am a very optimistic person. I believe that this is something which was much needed, because the best thing we can do is create a world and create a world which is much better than what we had, and hand it to our next generation so that they can also make it better.
Right.
So if I give them a mess and if they start cleaning it up, I'm all for it.
Right.
So there you go.
Great. So let's go back to former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's rule, 15-year reign, and how she governed the country. She was largely portrayed to be this pro-democracy icon, and later on it turned into an autocracy. Looking back at her reign, where do you believe was that inflection point where Bangladeshis may have seemed to stop looking at the checks and balances governing the head of state, and rampant corruption sprung up and started to permeate the entire system?
Let me tell you something very clearly, that being elected democratically does not mean that it will not be an autocratic regime. With Sheikh Hasina, what happened for the first 5 years, our electoral terms are 5 years, the first 5 years she was basically not that bad. Yes, in South Asia, all the politicians are basically somehow involved in corruption and all that.
Yes.
So it was not that bad. But after the second term, when the elections happened, that was rigged like anything. So there was no opposition, no nothing, because the other opposition party, political party, BNP, they boycotted that election, and it was all her party, Awami League. That is the point from when on she started sort of like, in my view, assuming that she can do whatever she wants. All her family members were given the power. All her followers were made ministers, and those blind followers, but we all knew that it was her who took all the decisions. So she started becoming an autocrat from that point, when she could finally oppress all the voices. There was no voice raised against her. There couldn't have been anything. And she actually very systematically corrupted all the institutions, the judiciary, the police, the law enforcing agencies,
Authorities, yes.
everything, all of them. And that was the turning point when people actually started thinking that enough is enough, that no, we cannot take that anymore.
Go on for any longer.
Exactly.
Right. So since the uprising and since democracy has been established in Bangladesh, earlier this year, actually, it was announced that elections will finally be held, and on the 5th of August, it was announced by Mr. Yunus that elections will be held in February
12th of February.
2026, next year, which will finally be a democratic election where multiple parties can come to the fray. They can present their manifestos to the people, and the people get to elect their leaders rightfully. What is the ideal scenario for Bangladesh moving forward, Mr. Aneek? Where do you see Bangladesh in the next 5 years?
Well, one thing that I can promise to everyone in Bangladesh and worldwide, that the election that will happen on 12th of February will be a non-partisan one. It will be dealt with by this interim government. It will be free and fair. Whoever the people chooses will be there. I believe that the July movement happened because of we wanted certain changes to be brought, certain reforms to be made in this country. And this interim government, we have started to roll the ball forward. We have started the reforms. And as you can understand, that 1.5 years is not enough to reform the whole nation, but we have started, and we will hope that whoever will be elected, whichever government, whoever will be forming the government, will take this reform forward, because now the people understand their power they have.
The
If
power of the people.
exactly, if they do not follow up on this reform, the same thing that happened to Awami League will happen to them. So the people have understood their power. I hope the political parties will understand that the people know that they are the ones who actually owns the country, not the political
And how is
parties.
the judiciary geared up to ensure that the checks and balances of the head of state and the state administration is maintained and no such uprising in the country occurs ever again due to public discontent of that nature?
Basically, the judiciary's duty is to act. Again, I am a very pro-people person. I believe that the judiciary should be for the people. It should not be politicized. It should not be used by the state for their own. So what we will hope that the judges that will be taking oath in the future or already has taken, they take the oath that they will be doing things without any fear or any favor and favor. So that has to be maintained. They will be independent, the judiciary will be independent, and they will be acting, they will be working for the people rather than the government.
Amazing. My guest tonight was Aneek Haque, Additional Attorney General for Bangladesh, who is in Sri Lanka for an interesting workshop on human rights with other regional peers representing South Asia. Thank you very much, Mr. Haque, for
Thank you.
joining me, sharing your insights, sharing your reflections on all things judiciary, and also how governments, judiciaries, state institutions should calibrate their various mechanisms and processes to suit the contemporary age. Bangladesh has now embarked on a new journey similar to Sri Lanka. Since 2024, Bangladesh has embarked on this fresh journey, the second liberation, they call it, and all of us as regional neighbors of Bangladesh hope the Bangladeshis all the very best to take Bangladesh to where it belongs, to make it prosperous, and also to keep reminding themselves that the power of the people is greater than the people in power. Thank you very much for joining us on Face to Face this evening. We will catch you on a fresh episode very soon. Take care and good night.